If you like true crime, dark history, the haunted and paranormal, then we think you'll like Ghost Town.
Ghost Town is hosted by me, Rebecca Lieb.
And me, Jason Horton.
We cover both notorious and obscure true crimes,
the haunted, paranormal, and unexplained,
and the dark history of everything from world events to pop culture.
There are new episodes of Ghost Town every Wednesday and Friday.
Find out for yourself what Vulture.com called essential listening and one listener called a total waste of time.
So pause the podcast you're listening to right now.
And go subscribe to Ghost Town for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And at ghosttownpod.com.
She went to the window to look outside, and suddenly a dark shape fell past her window, fast. It looked human. She ran downstairs in her nightgown, threw open the doors, and the sidewalk was empty. No man, no blood, nothing.
We are back with a special series of new episodes that dive deeper into the strange and unexplained parts of North Carolina. And what better place to start than at check-in? Hotels should feel like an escape. Fresh linens, a warm welcome, maybe even a chocolate on your pillow. But here in North Carolina, some hotels throw in a few unexpected extras. Shadows moving where they shouldn't, voices whispering through locked doors, and wake-up calls from someone who checked out decades ago. From grand historic inns to small-town hotels, you never know who or what will be turning down your bed. Welcome to First in Fright, where we explore eerie legends, supernatural tales, and everything that goes bump in the North Carolina night. I'm your host, Cooper Thornton. This is Episode 9, Haunted Hotels. If there's one place that perfectly captures the mix of glamour and ghost stories, it's the Lake Lure Inn and Spa just an hour outside of Asheville. It looks like the kind of hotel built for celebrities, and it is. The cast and crew of Dirty Dancing called this place home while filming nearby. Remember the iconic scene where Baby famously carried the watermelon up the stone steps before meeting Johnny? It happened just a mile away.
Yo, cuz, what's she doing here? She came with me. She's with me.
I carried a watermelon.
While the inn may have hosted Hollywood royalty during filming, these days the guests that get talked about the most aren't exactly paying for the night. Pulling up to the Lake Lure Inn and Spa feels like stepping back in time. The lobby still glows with roaring 20s elegance, grand chandeliers, polished wood floors, and that feeling that lures you in like a cozy old coat. It's easy to imagine the famous guests who once stayed here, like F. Scott Fitzgerald and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. But don't let the beauty fool you. Behind the glamour, there's a darker story. In the 1930s, a jealous groom saw his new bride talking to another man in the lobby, and in a fit of rage, he killed her. Guests say she never left and haunts a couple of the rooms. Late at night, guests have heard her high-pitched screams and have had multiple sightings of the ghost bride, dressed in white, wandering the halls. The smell of roses sometimes fills the air, as if a wedding bouquet was left to wilt. Housekeepers have also found long strands of black hair when they clean those rooms, even when no one stayed in them for days. The ghost bride isn't the only spirit roaming the property. Down in the basement, where the air feels heavier, there's a presence people call Sam, a playful but unsettling prankster. He's been known to say, "Hey," or tug at the hair of unsuspecting visitors just enough to make them spin around and find nothing. Sam isn't alone down there either. Staff and guests have also spotted a little boy quietly bouncing a ball. That's not all. There are other spooky events reported at the hotel. A painting of a little girl is known to move on its own during the off-season, somehow appearing in different rooms when no one's touched it. Chains on the inside of the guest room doors have been known to latch themselves. And one guest even caught a strange moment on video. A plastic bag in her suitcase suddenly lifted up into the air and floated away. No fan, no breeze, no explanation. The Lake Lorien hasn't shied away from its haunted reputation, nor its 15 minutes of fame. Fans of Dirty Dancing can book a night in Baby's Bungalow or Johnny's Cabin, themed rooms with nostalgic touches. But don't be surprised if you feel a tug on your hair, because at this hotel, you might find out you're not dancing alone. Now we head out to the waterfront town of Manio, home to the Roanoke Island Inn, a picture-perfect retreat with water views, beautiful gardens, and a few surprises. Guests have reported chilly drafts on warm nights, jewelry that won't stay where it's left, and the sound of footsteps pacing through the halls.
My name's Jason Borland, and along with my wife Lauren and our 3 kids, we own the Roanoke Island Inn in Manio, North Carolina, on Roanoke Island. We're right here downtown in walkable Manio, which is just a block away from shops and restaurants, and looking out at the water. We're fortunate to have about 1.5 acres centered around our koi pond in the middle of our beautiful garden here. So there's all kinds of good history lurking around here, and resident ghosts that may still be here with us. But before we get into that, I want to introduce our innkeeper, Lee Brickhouse, who's been with us for at least a few years and has a lot of great family ties and knowledge in Roanoke Island.
I come from a long line of descendants, not only on the island, but the Outer Banks in general. We have on Roanoke Island one of the longest outdoor running dramas. The Lost Colony is performed nightly in the summer months, based upon the first English settlers that came to America. In 1587, they brought a group to form a colony. And the story is that as they came back from England to bring supplies to the colony that they had left here, that the settlers had vanished, and it became the Lost Colony. I think that sort of sets the groundwork for a lot of interesting stories through the generations. There were so many people of my parents' and grandparents' generation that feared the north end of the island after dark because of the mystery of the Lost Colony, and those beliefs were just so instilled upon the locals around here. I think those beliefs have carried on. I have felt presence of people being around or being watched. It's a unique experience. It's hard to explain. I just kind of go with it.
Everything that Lee is saying is absolutely true, and to fully understand it on this property, we can go back to the beginning. Asa Jones and his wife Martha built the original structure of the inn in the early 1860s, and they had 10 kids. So kid number 5, Roscoe Jones, is who took up residency here second. During the time that Roscoe was here, he was the postman, and the post office was here, and he did that until he had lost his job in the early 30s and became severely depressed and wouldn't leave his room. They had to bring him his meals. But ultimately, Roscoe passed away, and his grandson, John Wilson, is who eventually built the inn attached. And that's when we start to see more guests coming into here and having more and more interaction with Roscoe. The reason when I tell the story of Roscoe, and you make it out to be like this angry guy that didn't like people, but I think most of the interactions that anybody has with Roscoe are a little bit more rascally. There's nothing like scary, haunting. One of the most common things that we have are the sightings of somebody wandering around. I mean, obviously the ominous, like somebody wandering around is spooky, especially in a postman outfit. Even more so than that is the footsteps. And it just goes on all the time. I remember when we first moved here, somebody just marching around with boots all night. We know what's above the rooms. It's the attic, and if we're not in there, then nobody's in there. So that is a pretty common occurrence. We had this group staying here, and they set up all this equipment, and I remember talking to them on their way out, and they're all disappointed, and they found nothing. And then the guy that checked in right after them, this big burly guy, he had no interaction with those guys. And he was checking out, and he's like, man, this is so great. We're definitely going to come back. Anything weird ever happen here? And before I dare tell him about Roscoe or anything else, I'm like, you tell me first what was going on. And he was in room 3, which is, for whatever reason, one of the popular rooms for things to happen. And he said, I was just laying in bed, and I woke up, and I remember I looked at the time on my phone, and I set my phone down. And then as I was laying there, my phone went flying across the room off of my nightstand into the floor there. And so I said, yeah, well, Roscoe's our resident here, and told him a little bit about the history, and told him he was in one of the rooms where it seems to be popular. It was either this season or last season where somebody came here specifically to try to communicate with Roscoe, and she was trying to ask him things, get him to tell her he was there. She said lights were flickering and things like that. So that was the one time I remember somebody who was like on a mission. Most of the time, it's someone who doesn't know about the history.
Several times, one of our lady guests will put all of her jewelry on the nightstand on the left side of the bed because that's the side she sleeps on. And upon waking up, it's on the opposite side of the bed on the nightstand, or the jewelry is completely in a different spot, like not even on a nightstand, but on a dresser or a table across the room. There's situations where entire jewelry boxes have been moved. There was the one lady whose necklace, she couldn't find it anywhere, and it actually ended up hanging on the light. It was on the little light turn on and turn off switch thing above the bed behind her. She was a solo guest, so it wasn't like she had anyone in the room with her. But it does seem to be a fascination with jewelry, is what I've realized over the years. So, that's all part of the prankster, I think, in Roscoe. The other interesting thing as far as sightings go, I know, is from our Widow's Watch up above that overlooks the Shallowbag Bay and the Lighthouse Harbor here. So many times I've gotten asked, I saw someone up there last night and there was a light blinking or someone was waving from up there. I'll get that 2 or 3 times during a season. They'll ask if there's one of the kids that has access to get up there, and I just have to assure them that no, there's no one. And it's just almost comforting to know that Roscoe is still up to his old tricks around here.
There's such a nice family history here, and we're trying to do the best of keeping the family theme going as we take care of the property. Maybe all of this is just Roscoe and the Jones family that were here for 150 years are looking over and approving of how we're running things.
Roscoe may have lost his job, but he never really left his post. And he has something in common with another ghost who's made himself at home in Charlotte. The resident ghost at the Dunhill Hotel is also a prankster, and a bit of a flirt. But don't get too comfortable. He's not the only secret hiding in those halls. What you're about to hear is a composite of some of the Dunhill Hotel's most talked about encounters brought to life by a local storyteller.
My name is Danielle. I was born and raised in Charlotte, and I have worked at the Dunhill Hotel on and off for years now. Weddings, banquets, bartending. If they need an extra set of hands, I get the call. I'm not here every day, but let me tell you, I have spent enough time within these walls to know that there is something different about this place. Now listen, if you had asked me before I walked in here if I believed in ghosts, I would have laughed. Ghosts? Spirits? UFOs? No, ma'am. I am the type who needs proof. But the Dunhill? Oh, it made a believer out of me. If you don't know, This is one of Charlotte's oldest boutique hotels, nearly 100 years old now. When it opened, it was called the Mayfair Manor, and it was the tallest building in the city. Imagine that. 10 stories was considered a skyscraper. It was part hotel, part long-term residences, and it was elegant. Folks came here to see and be seen. But then, the stock market crashed, and this place became something else entirely. People who lost everything, money, homes, their future, would take the elevator to the 9th floor, the highest you could go at the time, and they would jump. After decades of wear, the building sat empty. And when new owners finally restored it in the 1980s, they found something in the service elevator shaft, a body, or what was left of one. His name was Oliver Doc Munn, a man who had been squatting here. By the time they found him, he was mostly bones and dust. No one knows if he slipped or was pushed. Folks just started calling him Dusty. And let me tell you, Dusty may be long gone, but he hasn't left. He's actually quite the trickster and a big flirt with the ladies. You know Casper the Friendly Ghost? Well, it's really Dusty who is the friendly ghost around here. Maybe that's why it's easier to believe. He eases you into it. I remember one of my first nights here, I was closing up the bar after an event. It was quiet, just me. I was getting ready to lock up when I felt something. A soft little lift on the back of my hair, like someone gently brushing it off my neck. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped a glass. But no one was there. I thought, Danielle, you are tired. You are imagining things. It had been a long day on my feet. And child, a few weeks later, another bartender told me the same thing happened to her. In the same exact spot behind the bar. We just gave each other that look like, oh, so it's not just me. Then there was that time I reached for a bottle of bourbon on the top shelf, and I swear to you, it slid right into my hand like someone helped me. I even whispered, "Thank you, Dusty." Back in the day, we had this old upright piano in the lobby. Not one of those player pianos, just regular keys. But at night, it would play on its own. Soft little notes, enough to make the hairs on your arms stand up straight. It got so frequent, management finally removed the piano. But you know what? Dusty must have missed it, because now the bar lights flicker in this strange pattern, almost like they are keeping rhythm. A few times I said out loud, "All right, Dusty, cut it out." And the lights stopped like he was listening. Now there is another part of the hotel that isn't so playful. Room 906. I heard that this is the room that saw more suicides during the Great Depression than any other room. And you feel it. Even in July, when the AC is struggling to keep up, the 9th floor is ice cold. And y'all know, heat rises. It doesn't make sense. There was a couple who stayed in room 906 just for the thrill. They didn't believe in ghosts. Thought it was all just fun and games. Well, the man woke up in the middle of the night and saw his partner sitting up in bed, eyes wide open, staring into the bathroom and looking at the mirror like she was in a trance. When he followed her gaze, he saw a shadow of a man, panting, with his shoulders moving up and down. And I have seen it myself. I was delivering breakfast trays one morning, glancing into that same mirror on my way out, and there it was, a faceless silhouette heaving in the dark. Can you believe that? Now, some folks say room 906 is fine. Others can't last 10 minutes before checking out. It's like the room chooses who it wants to show itself to. But it's not just 906. There was a woman back in the late 80s staying on the top floor, the 10th. She had a long day and just wanted to go to sleep. The second she closed her eyes, she heard heavy footsteps above her, even though there was nothing above the 10th floor. No roof access, no attic, just open air. She went to the window to look outside, and suddenly a dark shape fell past her window, fast. It looked human. She screamed, looked over the ledge, and saw a man in a suit, lifeless on the sidewalk with his hat beside him. She grabbed the phone to call for help, but there was just static on the other end of the line. She ran downstairs in her nightgown, threw open the doors, and the sidewalk was empty. No man, no blood, nothing. She convinced herself she had imagined it, but that night she saw it over and over again, like a movie stuck on repeat. This same man falling past her window. The next day, she went to the library and looked up deaths at the Dunhill. And there it was. A man named Alfred P. Forrester had jumped from the roof exactly 50 years earlier to the day, so she wasn't imagining it. Now, the one that still gives me chills to this day is the lady with the long black hair. Now, I haven't ever seen her, and maybe that's a good thing. She has been spotted all over the hotel. Sometimes in the lobby, sometimes lingering in the hallways, but always barefoot and silent. One guest told me she saw the woman standing at the end of the 9th floor corridor with her hair covering her face. The guest blinked and the ghost was gone. Another man said he caught her reflection in the mirror behind the bar. Long black hair, pale skin, staring right at him. But when he turned around, there was nobody there. Whoever she is, she doesn't stay long enough to explain herself. Guests tell me their sinks and showers turn on by themselves in the middle of the night. One man even showed me a photo he took of the bathtub faucet running full blast, but the knob was still locked in the off position. And when he stepped into the bathroom, the water stopped. Our bell captain, he's been here forever, and he has seen everything. He even made the news talking about some of the ghost encounters.
Yeah, it was a guest that came down and asked to the front desk and asked if the hotel was haunted. And was like, well, yeah, we have spirits here, it's a good spirit. And it's like, well, good, that would explain why my blinds are opening and closing by themselves. Can you please go up and get my luggage, because I'm not going back to that floor.
He told me that one night he watched the glass slide all the way across the bar like it was on invisible ice, stopping just before it fell. Another bartender saw it too. After that, we decided to have a little fun and named a drink after Dusty, called, of course, the Dusty. It's rye, bitters, a touch of sugar, and smoked like a spirit. So yeah, we embrace the ghosts here. Dusty still flirts, mirrors still hold shadows, faucets still turn on. But if you visit, don't be afraid. Just keep an ear out for music that shouldn't be there. Watch for a flicker in the corner, and if you stay in room 906, maybe just don't look in the mirror.
North Carolina's hotels aren't the only places where guests overstay their welcome. Next time we head to Wilmington, where museums offer more than historical artifacts. Some exhibits watch you back.
I asked if one of the dolls could move. This doll in the red dress started to swing. Now there's no vents back there, there's nothing that could have moved it, and we didn't see any moving at the time until the question was asked.
To learn more about the paranormal places and scary stories of North Carolina, visit ncfirstinfright.com. Discover trails and destinations that will haunt you in the best way, and share your own NC scare by tagging hashtag #NCFirstInFright. First in Fright is a production of Visit North Carolina, Luke Wire, and AYR Media. Hosted by me, Cooper Thornton. Executive producers Katie Bailey and Dana Grimstead for Visit North Carolina. Executive producers Nancy Landisberg, Michael Ashley, and Ryan Coleman for Luke Wire. Executive producer Eliza Rosen for AYR Media. Produced and written by Sarah Auspitz. Edited and mixed by Cameron Taggy. Casting producer Danielle Hillenbrand. AYR Media Coordinator Andy Levine. Studio engineer Mac Geary. Voices by North Carolina storyteller Tiffany Okafor.